say in those days, are we talking about the millennial kingdom or after that?
We're talking about after Yahweh comes. It sets foot, everything splits. Yes.
So isn't that the onset of that's the 1,000 year reign?
That's when man's reign is over. When Yahweh comes. Yes. I'm trying to go around about saying yes.
I mean, you're talking about people dying. I mean,
yes. Yeah, this is the people, that's what we're referring to, is the people that fought against Yahweh, and the 1/3 that's remaining. I think another verse, I don't know if it's Revelation or where Daniel or wherever it is, it talks about 2/3 of the people will be killed, a third by the sword and a third by famine or whatever, and there'll be a third remaining of the people of the earth. No, I'm not trying to put in a time frame. I'm just saying it's after the day of Yahweh. So the day of Yahweh when all this happens and everything. I'm specifically trying not to use the Christian church's terms of millennial kingdom and the rapture and all these things. No, it's not just one day. It's from that point forward. It's when man is no longer ruling over the world, when Yahweh is reigning.
But when Christ returns to the Mount of Olives, is that not?
My scripture says it's Yahweh. That when Yahweh feet touch the Mount of Olives. It's not necessarily just Mashiach. Mashiach will be king, but Yahweh will be, his presence will be there at the Temple Mount, the Temple Mount, yes.
This morning about this,
Mm-hmm.
it says that he will come one.
Mm-hmm.
Because before that it said there will come too many saviors to Jerusalem, to Jewish. And then he will come as one.
Yeah. Yeah, okay. Sure, I have no problem with that. Yeah. I'm not saying I have a problem with yours, Melissa. Go ahead and ask the question.
He said Christ returns and he splits the Mount of Olives and he sets himself up for, the millennial kingdom. So like for 1,000 years, you have people coming in and you have these nations that still exist. And he's teaching everybody what they're supposed to do and the Sabbaths and all this stuff. And then they make war against him again.
After 1,000 years.
And then he
Apparently.
Get the new heaven and the new earth.
I'm not trying to identify because I don't know that Scripture specifically refers to distinguishing between the day of Yahweh, the day of Messiah's return, the day of the millennial kingdom, the day of the new heavens and the new earth, and all that. So what I'm just trying to say is, when I see who comes is the Father himself. When Yahweh touches the Mount of Olives, that's when it's split, and Messiah and being one together, echad. Okay, I have no problem with that, with him being silent, but I see it as the Father himself, his presence coming. And because you remember, he said he was going to dwell with his tabernacle with us, dwell with us for it's not just 1,000 years, forever. He was coming to live. In fact, whenever the new heaven and new earth come, they come down to Jerusalem, to the earth, and the Father reigns and dwells there forever and ever and ever and ever. Okay, and Mashiach is the king for the 1,000 years, and then who's the king after that? Yahweh himself or whatever. But I see them as the day of Yahweh happening all together as a chad from Scripture. Okay, so that's how I describe it. The way you're describing it is what the Christian church terms and stuff like that, and I'm not disagreeing with that, other than the fact that it's not Mashiach that's coming to touch his toe down, whatever on the Mount of Olives, and then it splits. I'm specifically saying my Scripture that we just read a few minutes ago, it says he comes, and it's speaking of the day of Yahweh. So, and I'm not distinguishing that there's 3 different time periods. I see it all happening at once. I don't mean the new heavens and the new earth. I agree the 1,000 years is probably the case, but Yahweh is going to be here, and what happens after that 1,000 years, I haven't researched and stuff like that, and trying to distinguish between them. All I was doing is trying to present for you, and then the Scriptures and the prophecies that I see in complete fullness as much as I can. And these aren't all the scriptures we've gone through in the Greater Exodus. There's many more of them talking about the Greater Exodus as well, and the day of Yahweh specifically. So, did I answer your question? Yeah, it's a paradigm shift in a box, in a timeline. Yeah.
That's the whole problem.
Yeah, that's a good point, Glenda.
I've never heard that before, that Yahweh, the Father, is the one that's standing and splitting the Mount of Olives.
Yeah.
Even on the Hebrew
Yeah.
teachers, I've not heard them say that.
Yeah.
I've heard them say it's Yeshua.
What did you think about when we read that verse just a few minutes ago? I said it should be a capital H on he.
I know, it's very confusing to me. I mean,
Let's back up for a second here. Let's see where we are. Isaiah 65:17. So just before past things will not be, just after past things will not be remembered. Everybody find it? Let's see. It's right in this area here. He. It's a little he. Let's see if we can see it here. 43. Let's go back here. We'll just go back to see. Let's revisit that. I was talking about Mashiach specifically there. Isaiah 43.
I guess my understanding was that anybody that did not accept Yeshua as the Son of God would eventually, at some point, all be annihilated. Is that not the case? Are we seeing that humanity is continuing on?
There's a scripture in the Brit Hadashah, the New Testament, the first century writings, that says effectively, and you guys could probably find it faster than me, that effectively, if you don't believe on me, you don't believe in the one who sent me, and so on and so forth. And basically, it says something to that effect. I have not gone back to the Greek or tried to understand it from a Hebraic perspective to research it. So I don't know that it interprets differently. My understanding that it's all of Yahweh's people. It's what the scripture says in all of the Tanakh and the Old Testament and the scriptures in the Torah and stuff. But I definitely believe it's all his people. Now, how you define his people, the New Testament translations definitely say you have to believe in Messiah, Yeshua, or you're not one of his people. Well, who makes the determination? The Father, the Son, in conjunction make that determination on each individual basis. So I don't think it's as simple as.
Was to get rid of all of the sinners, so that all that's left are people that.
Yeah, there's definitely going to be that. The judgment. This is Christian terms now, okay? The judgment seat of Christ, which are all those who believe in Yahweh will come before, and you'll be rewarded, given rewards. But the wicked dead will be judged. The scripture talks about Revelation. Talks about the wicked dead will be judged and stuff like that. So these are all Christian terminology, and only thing I'm saying is that I have not studied from a Hebraic perspective all of those areas to see if they still hold up. Okay, so what I'm trying to say is I'm not trying to discount anything the Christian church has said, other than I am trying to tell you what I have looked at from a Hebraic perspective. Since I've been awakened to the Hebrew roots of the scriptures, so I'm just saying, leave open the possibility that there may be more to the translation than what has been taught by the Christian church, because of so many other things taught by the Christian church.
And that'll be when the new heavens and the new earth come. That's my.
Yes, and I agree that's definitely the way we've been taught. I don't know from a Hebraic perspective how you distinguish from the Father and the Son.
Sure.
Okay, from a natural perspective.
Because the Father is above the Son.
Yes.
Yeshua was here, he never said he did anything as the Father. He always points to the Father.
do anything in my own authority. I always pointed to the Father. It's Father, Son, and then us.
And I agree with that. I just don't know how that you're going to still distinguish, how he can distinguish between the two, but
The eternal is one.
if they're Echad.
Down to this week, is there actually a Trinity, or is it just,
No, I don't think it's a Trinity. I think it's a lie. I think it's the Father and His Son.
The Holy Spirit?
Well, it's Holy Spirit, but that's the Father. That's the movement of the Holy Father. You know, that's the way I understand it.
Yes. Okay, so we're just going to stop for a second. Everybody take a break, and let's get back on track. That's okay, and I don't disagree with everybody. I'm just still in my mind, if they're Echad, then how you distinguish from a natural perspective the Father and the Son, especially if the Father isn't, like has a separate body over there and Yeshua is a separate body over here, and I don't see that the Scripture teaches that there's a separate body, and they have the Ancient of Days, but no man has seen the Father, okay, kind of thing. So,
God is the key.
yeah, they're Echad, and it doesn't mean singular; it means unity. Echad is one. Unity is one. Yeah.
He's Father's representative. It's just like any other understanding of a king. If you have a king and he sends his page or whatever to give a message, you have to treat that page with the same respect you would the king.
Yes.
Because he's the king's representative.
Absolutely.
Not the same person, but he is representing the king. And that's what Yeshua does. He represents his Father.
No question. Okay, so I don't know if I'm going to find that today, that verse. It wasn't, I wanted to see where, but it's okay. Did anybody remember if I had the recording? Yes.
The beauty of the people who follow the Father is that we can speak about these things and be in disagreement and still, try to seek ultimately the truth. So this is the good thing
Yes.
going on here.
Okay. Let's see. Anybody remember? Make a note in your notes where it said where the split would take place of the Mount of Olives.
That's Zechariah 14.
Yeah, it's going to be
14. For I will gather all the nations in Jerusalem, and the war will take.
that was the earthquake and all that stuff, and on that day?
On that day, his feet will stand on the Mount of Olives. This says, then Yahweh will go out and fight against those nations, fighting his own day of battle. On that day, his feet, meaning Yahweh, will stand on the Mount of Olives, which lies to the east of Jerusalem. That's the point that I was trying to make. So I'm not trying to disagree with anybody. I'm just trying to show you what Scripture says. Okay, so that would be Yod-Heh-Vav-Heh, or Adonai. Getting our finite minds around that, we don't know, we don't understand. But that's why we have this, trying to have this understanding from everybody's different perspective.
See, Yeshua had a physical body that he could touch, even after he was
Yes,
transfigured.
and still does. Glorified, though. That's the distinction. So that was the only point that I was trying to make, that his feet should be capitalized.